Hey, what's up, you guys? Chelsea Briggs here, coming to you from Outside Lands, and I'm joined by Young the Giant.
Hello.
Howdy.
How's it going, guys?
We are good. A little bit tired. We had a show in Vancouver last night, but we're here.
This is the job, you know?
Yeah.
It's like not much sleep.
Sometimes delirium is better.
But you guys look great, especially
Well,
your
thank
sock
you.
choice.
Yeah.
Let's show them to everyone. Look at
yeah.
good socks.
Yeah.
You know, you can judge someone by their socks choices, I would say.
That's what my dad always
What
said.
socks are you wearing?
I don't. Well, I have like. Well, this isn't fair. Because
See,
I
that
have,
speaks
like,
volumes.
These are not sock shoes, though. You know. So next time I see you guys.
Yes.
You guys have been together. I think it's 13 years now as a band.
I think it's been, this version maybe 10 years, but
10 years, but still,
feels the
that's a
same.
lot.
Could be 20 years,
But you've
honestly, at
had
this
like
point.
a continuous, successful career as a band. And I'm just curious what you guys think. What's been the key to that, as opposed to maybe other bands who haven't had longevity in the industry?
I think for us, the main key has been just like playing a lot of shows, just going on tour, playing every city like a bajillion times. You know, like first friends there, like, you know, like the few people, like the drug dealers are just hanging out, and then, you know, and eventually becomes that was a joke, I guess, sort of. I saw her face, she was like and eventually you know, like you start picking up a following, and you know, that's kind of been what's sustaining us. Our fans are a big part of that.
Well, and you guys were so young when you started. So young. When you look back on that, if you could kind of give yourself advice, your younger self advice, knowing what you know now about just being in a band and traveling and the industry, what would you say?
I would start with get a better fake ID. There were so many shows that we couldn't like even go into until like it was showtime, and then the bouncer like kicked us off. But I don't know. I guess really, like, truthfully speaking, you got to be friends with the band members, especially in the early days. Like, you spend a lot of time in very close quarters, and it can get exhausting, and you know, things don't always work out the way you want to. But you know, we were just catering. The five of us were still eating and like cracking jokes. It was like, you don't see like bands do that, and for some reason we're still friends, you know, and that's a lot of good fortune. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the first time you went on stage, and what was that experience like?
I remember one of the first times we went on stage. It was we opened for the Donnas at the Orange County Fair, and we were really nervous because like our parents were there and stuff, and we drank strawberry Smirnoff.
Oh no!
And we're just like sloppy, like 18-year-olds just playing on stage. And our parents were like, great energy. You guys sounded terrible though.
Isn't that so funny? You don't do the Smirnoff, the strawberry Smirnoff
Definitely
anymore,
not.
do you?
No.
It's tequila.
Tequila. I was gonna say, I can imagine though your touring is probably a bit different than back then.
Yes.
I read that somewhere that you're like more focused on like a well-balanced meal. And
You read that
right?
somewhere?
I did.
That's probably our bass player saying that.
Oh, so not you guys.
He lives on top of
CrossFit.
crystals. No. No, we try. You know, we've been doing this for a while now. So, and we're not that old. I mean, I'm 28. I just turned 28. But yeah, we've been doing this for 10 years. And, you know, every time you're like, I want to continue to do this and not kill myself every time I'm on the road.
Absolutely.
And that does happen. You know, we go back home, go to the doctors, and they're like, you have like the body of a 40-year-old man right now.
No.
And, you know,
Speak
that
for
scared me a
yourself,
few
man.
times. That scared me a few times. That was
You
back in the
literally
day.
said that to you.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Oh,
you know,
no.
like, you know, so you know, kind of rein it in, and you know, it's gotten slightly better, so that's good. That's what you
Good.
can hope for.
Now you're a 38-year-old man.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad. You've experimented with your sound quite a bit over the years. Just curious, going into each album, is that sort of a conversation you guys have in the beginning, what direction you want to go, or does that sort of unfold organically?
I'd say that it unfolds organically. A lot of the bands that we look up to kind of continuously, if not reinvented themselves, tried to evolve their sound. And I think as a musician, it's, for us at least, it just gets boring if we try to do the same thing over and over again.
Definitely.
And we have slight musical ADD. So within even a writing session for one album, you know, there'll be 5 to 10 different genres that we're kind of pulling from. And I think naturally that's going to continue to evolve as our taste in music and our taste in what we want to write continues to do so as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and you just, a year ago, you released your third album, Home of the Strange. And I think it's really interesting. You actually sort of dealt with the topics of the band's immigrant history and identity in this album. Curious, why did you think this was the right album to do that? What was sort of the creative process going into it?
Well, you know, with each album, we wanted to be able to share our story with people, and I think it's also having an awareness of your audience. You know, when we were releasing our first album, we didn't have any awareness of that. We were hoping that people would listen to the music, and then they did, and that was the story of our lives till that point, our imaginations and desires and whatever we wanted. The second album was, the process of making the second album in itself, and then we figured, now we'd been touring for a while, and we had this conversation going with our fans, and we were like, we're an American band, but there are a lot of things about us that makes us kind of unique, and our perspective as Americans in America is somewhat different.
Yeah.
And we figured we wanted to share that with people. We were on the road a lot, playing a lot of college shows, and we could see there was a lot of tension in the schools. There was a lot of, and it's, it's very, very current now, but,
the political climate.
And,
that.
And so, even a year and a half ago, it was rearing its head in the college campuses, and that's where we're like, this is a story that is really true to us as well. So, from there just kind of stemmed, and it was organic.
Yeah, what's the response been with your fans, especially?
I'd say it's been pretty great across the board. Obviously, if you try to make any statement that has any weight to it, some people are going to get upset, and we kind of knew that going into it. But overall, it's actually interesting. A lot of times we'll go into states or cities that are maybe a little bit more conservative, and those a lot of times are the crowds that are most fervently happy to be there and singing every word. And I think maybe it's those people who feel like they're not being represented, and they see themselves in that music, and so they come out, and really show up. Overall, I mean, it's been hugely positive, and it's pretty heartening considering everything else that's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, do you guys feel as musicians that have a platform that you should speak up and say stuff? Do you feel pressure with that, or is it more something you just feel like?
It's an interesting thing, because this album, it happened, I think, before, no one really was. The Trump thing, he was just kind of coming out of the gates at that point, and now there's this whole other layer to it for musicians, and I think there's this fine line between there are certain bands that want to become really escapist and just kind of go for what's feeling good, and then there's some people who want to go really overtly political and very, very literal, and I think there needs to be a fine balance in between there, because at the end of the day, music brings people together, and the awareness of that in itself is a message. So for us, it's all about that fine balance.
Yeah, what feels organic, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You just released 2 singles, Mirror Ball and Mind Over Matter. So obviously we know you're working on some new music. What can you tell us kind of about the stuff you're working on, and maybe, I know you just released an album a year ago, so no pressure, but when do you maybe see releasing more?
I mean, we've been writing basically since we released the last one, which is something we've gotten better at doing. We released the first album, we're like, all right, we're done now. We could relax, and then we went on tour, and then we got back, and the label's like, all right, so you have material, right? And we're like, no. And it's really hard to go from a dead stop back into writing. So since then, we've just been in this continuous cycle of writing as much as possible. I mean, I'd say we're about 10 to 15 songs deep already, but we want to get to maybe 40 or 50 and just try to do the Michael Jackson way, get 100 songs and pick 10.
And we have tons of stuff in the vault too, songs that for whatever reason didn't fit with the album, and that's kind of what Mirror Ball was for us, and as well as that Mind Over Matter reprise. It was stuff that we had in the bay somewhere, and we just figured we'd put it out there in the world.
I love that. That's really cool. Cool. We're excited. Couple rapid fire questions. Is that cool?
Yeah.
I suck at these.
What's your favorite song for each of you that you guys have from one of your albums?
Oh, one of our albums.
Yeah.
I would say Repeat on a new album.
Okay.
I would say Home in the Strange.
Okay. Favorite lyric you've written?
I like The Genius of Pain. I like that one.
With very little context. I don't know. The Repeat one, the world's not empty, it's how you want it to be. I think it kind of goes back into, if you want to look at the issues that are around you, it helps to have a slightly positive, maybe optimistic bent, even if things are falling apart. I don't know. That's my philosophy about it. So I don't know. That one resonates with me.
Cool. And then, do you guys have a most embarrassing moment on stage that you can share real quick?
Well, I actually had a pretty recent one. We just started our tour, and it's the first time I have a wireless mic, so I'm so excited because I can go run around. And we had an amphitheater show in Detroit, and it was raining, and so I jumped off stage. Oh, I'm from Ann Arbor. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. And I jumped off stage and I tried to I didn't have a clear path to the audience, so I was trying to barrel over the bleachers,
Oh,
and
no. I know where this is
I
going.
slipped and I just landed on my leg. I've been limping around for the last 2 weeks, but I'm still getting through the shows. So that's
my
good.
gosh, that's insane. Did you have one you wanted to share quick?
I'm sitting down most of the time, so
Okay.
nothing ever that bad. There's definitely one time where it was in New Orleans, and I went to this really awesome dinner with my fiance, but it went way too close to showtime, and there was a little bit of maybe in my mouth while I was playing. But true professional, you gotta learn to live with that.
Young the Giant, true professionals right here. Thank you so much, you guys, for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys, for
Thank you.
watching.